Okay, so everybody, we're back here again, and you should have your small item with you. If you've got it on a plate, just keep it there on the plate, or otherwise let's place it in the hand for now. And so this mindful eating practice, I just take a moment to introduce it. What we're doing here is really tuning in with awareness and slowing down to really notice the food. And it's not something that we tend to do. We tend to really, push through our day. Food is sometimes an afterthought that we do, that we eat on the run, or sometimes it's something that we are just kind of shoving in our mouth while we're busily feeding our small children, or we're just not thinking. We might be watching TV or texting someone. There's all kinds of things that can go on while we're eating. So this practice is really about bringing your attention to just the practice of eating, taking the distractions away and bringing the focus into the food in front of you. And what this helps us to do is remind us of the ability that we have to eat with awareness. And now we can't always do this in our daily lives, but it can encourage you to slow down even now and then, if it's not possible to do it daily, or even just for one meal a day, or even a couple of bites during a meal, if we can't do it for an entire meal. If possible, we would like to stretch this out, this practice, if you were having lunch, for example, to at least 30 minutes. So a lot of people, if you're having lunch, you can eat it in 5 or 10 minutes. So a good mindful eating practice, you would take so long and enjoy and savor each bite for with such detail and such attention that it would just take a really long time. There's also a great research around digesting food. So when we are distracted and we're getting caught up in all of the things that we're doing, we're not really chewing our food as well as we could be. So there's a lot of research around the amount of times that you actually chew your food and break down the food in your mouth before it reaches your stomach, and the benefits that you get from that in terms of your nutrient absorption. So you can imagine if you're eating a salad, but you're only taking a few bites before you swallow, you're putting a lot of pressure on your stomach to process that salad, and you're probably not going to get as much of the nutrients out as you would if you were chewing it up and really breaking it down. So what we're looking for the body is to be able to break down the food to absorb the nutrients. So just slowing down and breaking down that food in our mouth, using the saliva that is already there to help break down the food, and chewing it down into small pieces so that when it's swallowed and down in the belly, it's already in a good state for digestion and nutrient absorption. So these are some of the real benefits for this mindful eating practice. The other benefit is the psychological benefit of being aware and tuning in to the actual food that's entering your body. So a lot of people, when they start practicing mindful eating, find that they are really starting to enjoy the tastes of very natural foods. So natural whole foods like fruits and vegetables and whole grains can have an amazing taste when we start tuning into them. And a lot of people start to really notice if they're eating greasy food or food that's not the best for you, that it doesn't taste as good as they thought it did. And so when you really start tuning in, it can change the flavors in your mouth and the way that you're experiencing the food. Actually, a lot of people report that when they chew up a food like rice, when they really chew it down, they can taste the sweetness and the sugars in the rice. So a food that can normally be quite plain, like rice or bread, can have a natural sweetness, and that can be quite enjoyable as well. So we're able to really tune into that to what's going on in our minds while we're eating. We can tune into some of those stories that we have, and we're able to really listen to what our body needs. So when we're tuning into, as we're eating, we're paying attention, we can tune into our bellies and have that crosstalk, have that conversation, and start to listen to our bodies and our minds saying, well, actually, I'm full now. I don't want to eat anymore. I've had enough. Or, you know, I've had a few bites of this and now I'm ready for a few bites of that. Or I need some water. And just tuning in, paying more attention to what our body and what our gut brain is telling ourselves, telling our brain and our minds. And from there, that conversation can grow in terms of, you know, what you're putting into your body, how you're treating your body when you're eating, and you know, how much attention you're paying to the cues that your body is giving you. So let's go into this practice together. So I'd like you to start by taking whatever item you have. I have a sultana, a raisin, as they say in America, I believe. I could be wrong, but I think that it's called raisins in America. We call them sultanas. So I'd like you to place your food onto your hand, onto the palm of your hand, and just take a moment to look at it. So you can look at it from different angles. It might roll around in your palm. Take a moment to look at the texture and the color. Notice the weight of what you have in your hand. You can pick it up between your fingers. And again, noticing the texture, noticing the color, really taking a good look at it. Feel the pressure between your fingers, the texture. You may already start to be thinking of where it's come from, the origin of this food. Whether it was from a packet, factory, from your garden, where did it come from? What was the evolution of it reaching you here and being in your fingertips? You may think of the people who were involved in bringing you this food. From your own family to a shopkeeper, delivery drivers, factory workers, farmers. Bring the food to your nose and see if it has a sense of smell. Try not to describe in stories. If you have a sense of smell that you can label it with, like sweet or sour, go ahead, but try not to get caught into stories around the smell. Notice in your fingers if it has a specific temperature. And then when you're ready, place the sultana or the item gently on your tongue, but don't chew it. So you're just going to put it in the middle of your tongue and notice it there in your tongue. I'd like you to notice the natural immediate reaction of the saliva in your mouth. So this is the first stage in digestion, the release of saliva to help to break down this food. Notice your urges. If you have any urge to eat or chew, notice it. And if there are any stories, any messages from your mind right now, just pay attention to what they're saying. Now roll the item around your mouth. Use your tongue to move the item from side to side, across your taste buds, feeling the texture. And then notice again that urge to bite. And gently place this item between your teeth, but still don't bite down. Again, notice that urge, notice that thought process and the saliva in your mouth. Again, pay attention to any stories that you're telling yourself about the food or about me or about anything involving this situation. When you're ready, gently bite down, just one bite, and notice the release of flavor. Notice the tension between your teeth as you press down, and your natural reaction to move the food and to keep chewing. Move it over to the other side of your mouth and again gently bite down. Pay particular attention to the texture and the taste and the touch in your mouth. Take your time now to move this food through your mouth and chew it, really chewing it. So avoid the urge to swallow. But notice it. And then when you feel that it's time and you've really chewed down into this food and the urge is there, go ahead and swallow. And if you want to close your eyes and just notice the aftertaste in your mouth. So notice what remains in your mouth. Maybe tiny pieces of this food, maybe a particular taste or sensation. Keeping your eyes closed, notice the thoughts that you have. Is there an urge to have more? Is there a story that you're telling yourself about this food or about me or the situation? Are you feeling satisfied? And gently bringing the eyes open, now is the time to take your journal. I'm going to guide you through some questions, and you can take your time to write. So when you've got your journal and your paper ready, I'd like you just to take a moment to write a few sentences about how that experience was for you. And there are no rights or wrongs here. There's no judgment. It can be just interesting to note how you felt during this experience, what thoughts came up for you, what the experience was like for you. What did you notice that you haven't noticed before? What did you notice from this experience that you haven't noticed before? How do I normally approach my meals? In my daily life, how do I normally approach my meals? And finally, are there any stories that accompany any particular meals or foods in my life? Are there any stories I tell myself that accompany any particular foods or meals that I have in my life? And I'm going to pause the recording now to open things up here with the live students. So if you're watching this recording, just take your time to finish off your own answers to these questions. Otherwise, and come back, I'll be coming back soon so we can keep on going with the retreat. So take your time to do your journaling, and we'll be seeing you soon.